I also think that yesterday, now, I think when you have a big league 2 games in a row, both times the Dodgers end up coming back and making a game of it, I feel like it's kind of fair that you won one of those, you lost one of those, because the Dodgers can come back. They have a powerful offense. The game's not over ever in the 5th inning. I do think that yesterday also, we always talk about carryover. There's always carryover with innings, with the bullpen, and I do think we experienced some carryover because you went bullpen game the day before, and you used a lot of your guys and some of your A guys. And we all know that Helsley, they're looking at his usage this year, and they're saying, hey, if he pitches this amount, we're not trying to go back-to-back very often. If he goes 2 innings here, we're going to rest him. So I think there was carryover also when you have to just go into your bullpen to cover a ton of innings the day before, you're going to have carryover to the next day. And I think that was also part of this yesterday. And I'll throw this out there, and some people could say, oh, you didn't like this move, so you're trying to justify your opinion, and maybe that's partly true. But what bothers me about the TJ McFarland, Zach Thompson situation is that you took a pitcher out of Ollie's arsenal. Zach Thompson was helping you win games. And by the way, they were putting him in there. They were bridge situations, but still, games that you had a chance to win versus the Phillies, versus the Braves. He had pitched well. He had 8 straight outings. He had not allowed an earned run. You sent him down to quote-unquote stretch him out. And by the way, he threw out of the bullpen 2 innings yesterday at Memphis. To me, that's not a stretch out. He could throw 2 innings in the big leagues. So you took a guy out of the Cardinals bullpen that was helping you win games. You put in a guy, TJ McFarland, who was banged up earlier, and also he wasn't pitching well, and you put him on the Major League roster because he's got a contract, let's be real, and Zach Thompson has options, and you're afraid to use him. Like, he didn't pitch the last 2 games. And by the way, you had some big leads. So you took a guy out of your Major League pen that you were using to help you win games. You brought up another guy, and you're afraid to use him. I mean, when is he going to be used? When it's 9-1? And I know maybe I'm focusing too much on, that's a small part of it, but I think, look, every bullpen arm that you can use to help you win a game, right? It could have been last night. It could have been the day before. Maybe Thompson is used on a Tuesday, and all of a sudden another pitcher is available to throw on Wednesday. That's where there's a carryover.
I agree.
In my opinion.
I agree with you. I mean, and Thompson was very good, and like you said, bridge guy, but he had earned leverage bridge situations. He had earned trust. So, I mean, a guy like him would have been invaluable last night. No question about it. I think what the Cardinals were thinking, well, we got these roster moves. We got to figure some out. Let's just get to the All-Star break. Well, they didn't get to the All-Star break, and it kind of came back to bite them. So, I think that was probably, as they try to navigate through this, probably a mistake. I do understand saying that we want to stretch Thompson out. I don't think it was the right situation to try to get that done because, as you point out, he's going to pitch 2 innings at the minor league level. Those could have been 2 innings at the big league level that ensured you get a W.
And by the way, in saying this, this is not a 100% criticism on Mozeliak in the front office because I understand their want to see what they have with TJ McFarland. You probably have to cut bait. Well, then see what you have. Because I would have said the same thing about Corey Dickerson. And guess what? Corey Dickerson had a couple good games in a row where he was producing multiple hits, home run. So I think Corey Dickerson and TJ McFarland either were or are in the same situation. You were unproductive, then you were banged up. We're bringing you back. This is probably your last chance, and then it's DFA territory. So I think Corey Dickerson in a couple of these games has said, hey, I can help you win. So with me, for TJ McFarland, like, let's see what you have. Maybe he is better now. I don't know. But throw him out there. Otherwise, you have Zach Thompson in the minors who was helping you win games. He was throwing in the 5th and the 6th inning and the 4th inning of games that mattered versus good teams like the Phillies and the Braves.
Sir Nathaniel.
Yeah, sorry, I'm monitoring Ollie from last night.
What?
Well, because the whole key, people are like, where was Helsley? Why wasn't Helsley available to pitch the 9th inning? He pitched 13 pitches, on, what is today? Today's Thursday, so that would have been Tuesday. Where was Helsley? Well, apparently Helsley and the pitching coach, Mike Maddox, and Ollie had a meeting before the game, and they determined that the pitcher was unavailable. He's coming off knee and elbow surgeries, and This would have been 5 games in 7 days, and so they decided that he was unavailable. Unfortunately, you also had Oviedo and Hicks unavailable, and Genesis Cabrera, his velocity is down since coming back off of COVID. And so the reality remains your bullpen is very vulnerable, and they don't have enough guys. And if you send down Thompson and Nail and these guys who are capable of getting outs, meanwhile, the confusing part to me is Major League Baseball has done everything they can. They've created roster spots for teams to not run into this issue. And so last night you're telling me that the Cardinals had 4 guys that they couldn't use out of their bullpen against the Dodgers, the best team in the National League.
Yeah,
That's not good enough.
That's why I said I think it was not an opportune time to say we're going to stretch out Thompson when you're facing one of those offenses that comes back against everybody, and so you're going to need your bullpen. With the Helsley thing, look, I think it's easy to go, where's Helsley? Look, he's been so good. They use him in different spots, not necessarily to close, but really what they consider the most pivotal point in the game, right? But you got to make sure he's okay at the end. We've seen before where they throw out guys. Next thing you know, when it's time to get, serious about playoff baseball, hopefully they get there, you don't have that guy anymore because they overused him. So I understand them trying to save him. But by the same token, you had other guys. Like Nail was good when he was up. Now, I mean, he's 29-year-old that just, made his major league debut.
Yeah.
So let's not act like, he's this big prospect. But he had good stuff, and he got it done. But certainly Thompson would have been a guy who factored in last night. Now, with the Cabrera thing, I don't think anyone anticipated that he would not have it last night again, right? I mean, you figured he'd had – the night in his previous outing didn't have the velocity. He'll bounce back because he's that kind of guy, right? I've heard them say in the broadcast, no matter what, this guy's throwing 97, 98. So I don't think they anticipated that. So that made it even worse. And let's face it, there's times when Gio is going to give it up a little bit. Overall, decent, but there's times he's going to give it up, especially when he's been used a lot. So it was a bad situation.
And
but they were up 6-0.
Yeah, and but they had big leads in both these games. Both times, Dodgers got right back in it, and Cardinals held on once and didn't last night. Which to me, that's about what should happen in those situations. I also think the carryover effect. It's not just about the bullpen. This is where I think you can look at last night's game and the night before. A lot of these decisions with your pitching, with your pen, is due to the fact that on Tuesday, you had to use 7 pitchers.
Yep.
You had to throw a bullpen game. Why is that? It's because they don't have a starter that they can rely on, right? And you can blame because Flaherty's out, Matz is out, but also you knew Flaherty and Reyes were basically on the shelf day 1 of spring training. Everybody on earth, when that happened, and you said you're losing your ace, we don't know how long, and Alex Reyes, who was going to be a multi-inning guy, all of a sudden there was uncertainty. The Cardinals at that moment had a spot for a veteran starter to come in there and just give him some certainty and some innings. And in the game on Tuesday, clearly you're using Hicks as an opener, which doesn't even bother me, but it's more so also you don't trust Matthew Libator to be a starter. So you're piecing together a game. You were also lucky to hold on, but part of the reason you lost the next day was because you didn't have a legit major league starter to start that game on a Tuesday, and you had to throw 7 pitchers, and then all of a sudden, as Nate said, the next day, you got about 4 people who are unavailable and another pitcher, apparently, I'm not trying to crush TJ McFarland, but it seems like they're scared to use him.
And so they're going to get Matz back. I mean, he had 4 rehab outings. His last one was, my guess, is Sunday. He'll be back, and he'll be back in the rotation. That will help. Probably still need another starting pitcher, and I agree with everything you're saying. We both said at some point we should probably have Jay Happ ready to go in case that situation arises. Well, guess what? It has, and he could have probably helped him, or another starter of that type. So you have someone to put out there. I do think they're a little disappointed by what they've seen from Libator. I mean, it's pretty clear when out of nowhere Hicks is he said he found out at noon that day. They just thought, based on their right-handed heavy lineup, that was not a good situation for Liberatore. Now, if you have faith in a pitcher, you're probably not as worried as that where suddenly you're going to go with an opener.
855-282-8255. Get them in. We want to hear from all y'all. If Mo had done his job and gotten a quality proven starter or two during the offseason, they would not be in this predicament right now.
Well, he did get mad. They did get Mats. And, you can say he's not the guy, but I don't think anyone thought he would be battling these injuries. He didn't think so. He's a guy who's known to get ground balls and give you some innings.
He's had an injury history, though.
Yeah, he's had some.
Do you guys think Marmel? Oh, go ahead, Sethy boy.
Who did you want?
Mo takes that chance. That falls on Mo. If Mats gets hurt, you can't just say, "Oh well, we didn't think that he was going to be hurt." He's been hurt most of his career. So that was a risky chance. And Verhagen's got to go. He's got a 7 ERA and 21 innings pitched.
Let him know.
Well, I think
it's too much of a
let
pride
him know,
thing.
Sethy.
I think it's fair. I think that at a time, I think Corey Dickerson, Drew Verhagen, a little different because he has a 2-year deal, but still it's not like it's earth-shattering money. But I feel like the Verhagens, the Dickersons, and the McFarlands of the world, they're all right now in the DFA territory. So I hope they all produce, but I think it's fair to say, because you just did that with Nick Whitgren. So we're getting to the time on the calendar where we're more than halfway through the season. And if you go back to the years when they, for example, DFA'd Ty Wigginton, around July is when you say, all right, the guy that we picked up is not the guy we thought.
So can you go back and see if you can find a soundbite from Ali from pregame where he's talking about the return of Verhagen? And while you do that, I will just point out, not saying that should guide you differently, but the difference between TJ McFarland and those other guys, TJ was really good in an important part last year. So at least he had a little equity with the ball club. They saw what he can do. And he was a double play machine. Verhagen, they give 2 years. And what we've seen is a guy whose spin rates and all that kind of data says he should be more effective than we've seen. And he's had, hip, shoulder already. But even before that, I mean, he hasn't done much. I don't know if we have that sound, but I just
figure
tried to
that
eat
a
a little.
roster move is coming. The Cards pick up a fresh arm today as Drew Verhagen comes off the IL. Verhagen had been on the IL since June 24th with a right shoulder impingement. Matthew Liberatore threw 2 1/3 last night, heads back to Memphis. Verhagen says his rehab went well and he feels good, but Ollie Marmol says they're hoping to see some improvement from Drew.
And the reality is he didn't have the success we needed him to have early on. His pitches are there. It's a matter of executing it. He's got a good mix, and he's got some outlier stuff, but he's going to have to use it differently in order to get the swing and miss that we were hoping for.
I mean, that's a guy off the IL. Usually that's a good reset for him. It tells you there was a little caution in his voice, don't you think?
Well, I hate saying this because I'm not in the clubhouse, but sometimes, and this is more big picture, sometimes pitchers are injured. Sometimes pitchers are bad. And then all of a sudden that pitcher has some type of shoulder stiffness, where to me, really, it's more of a, hey, let's bring a fresh arm up. Let's reset this guy. Is he really, really injured? No, but he's not performing well. And maybe if we just let him rest and come back, to me, there's that injury reset. Like, I don't think these dudes' arms are falling off. But you see this sometimes with guys who are struggling, where maybe if they were pitching well, they would allow them to pitch through it. I just think sometimes when you see a pitcher who has an ERA that's 6.7, and all of a sudden, when I see that email from the Cardinals communication staff and it says so-and-so goes on the IL with shoulder stiffness, I think at least half the time that's a guy who's not pitching well, and they just need to reset him.
I need to get on these email chains.
Am I wrong on that, you think?
No, in this case, though, I think I talked to Verhagen. I think there was some underlying issue. Maybe that's, like you said, a lot of pitchers are pitching with bumps and bruises. A lot of hitters are out there, too. So who's to say? But the bottom line is, for a guy who's got that kind of crazy spin rate and who should be more effective, isn't for some reason. Last night, they needed him, and he wasn't good.
This team is all about Mo's ego and not able to accept failure on his bargain bin signings. Time to make winning a priority and admit that mistakes happen. It's okay. Thompson and Woodford should be here, not Verhagen.
You want two
He's right.
little sound bites from Ollie?
Yeah.
This was on pitch selection last night. Seems like he was unhappy with fastballs.
Yeah.
What was it, 4 or 5 consecutive fastballs after it seemed as if he had him kind of off balance with some breaking stuff.
The first 2 hitters, and Betts and Turner spins him. They miss it by a foot. I think the pitch selection was not the play. You spin both those guys and make them look silly, and then you go, I think, 3 or 4 straight fastballs to Freeman and then a fastball to Smith. If a pitch is working, stick with it.
And then here, this is where, I think you can defend Ollie, but then he takes a question and he sort of seems to take a cheap shot at everyone who's calling out the bullpen.
Listen, they've been good. You can't. It's easy to sit there and get on them today. The reality is a lot of people watching right now aren't as good as those guys at their jobs. They just don't have people writing about it daily. One a good day for them. They've been really good for a couple weeks.
Okay.
I love that, though.
Give me a break.
Oh, that's great.
Don't get me wrong. If he would have called out just the sports media for sucking at their jobs, I would have applauded it. But you can't. Seems to me like he's calling out everyday people who are just critical of the team. You can bash the sports media. Screw
Please
them.
do.
I agree.
Please do. I would like you more.
I
Bunch of
think
losers.
what he was saying.
Bash all.
You're a part of it.
I'm
No,
not
we're
part of
not.
it, Joe.
You are
no,
a
no,
not
no,
part
we
of
are an
sports
island.
media.
Just because you say
cannot
you're not.
call
Yeah.
your own group a bunch of losers unless you agree with it. Actually, you can,
Bunch of
because I
losers.
agree. We are a bunch
How
of
strong
losers.
you want to come at it, guys?
You can't say,
Oh, man.
then have pronouns, because you can't say you're not part of. You can't say you're not part of a group when you are,
Him.
just because you say it.
You have 3 radio shows in 3 cities.
Okay, you're a media guy. You're part of it. No, you are, just because you
He's got
say
more
you're not.
shows on more stations. He does writes blog. He is.
He's like Regis. He's on
It's
every channel.
unbelievable. I love it.
But here's I think what he was saying, and I'm not apologizing because Ali can speak for himself, and I think he's a great dude. I really do. But I think what his point was is that everyone has a bad day at work, only it's not a headline. And for the most part, the bullpen has been good. They were caught short. Should they have done something anticipating this? I think that's a fair criticism. As we point out, they had a guy, Thompson, who was very good and earning more leverage situations. Certainly a bridge guy could have helped them last night, but he was stretching out, in the minor leagues. But I think what he was saying is, overall, the bullpen's been good. They're going to catch a lot of heat for this tonight. And I think he was just defending his guys. I like that. I think that's funny when he says that.
That makes my opinion of Ollie head south. He calls out a number of players, and that's not the way to boost team morale. Beginning to think he may be another of Mo's bargain bin signings. Oh, gee, dang, D-dog. That's
So wait,
make
who
a
did-
name for yourself.
Calling out who?
Ollie.
Ollie.
No,
Oliver.
I'm saying Ali calling out Verhagen for bad pitch selection.
I don't know.
Part of that might, maybe it's a shot at Kiz too. But look, our guys called it out too. Like his curveball looked good, and then all of a sudden he wasn't throwing his curveball, and he paid a price.
Jackie says it sounds like he's calling out the front office for their boneheaded roster moves more than anything.
Yeah, I read a lot into that. By the way, I love that comment. I love that he said that. It is funny because it's true. A bunch of people on their couch, terrible move.
Fire them all.
Eating Cheetos.
Yeah. With their drawers on.
I could have made a better move. I played T-ball. I coached my kids' softball game. So I love that
Eating
Ali said
Salisbury steak on a microwave Salisbury
that. TV
steak.
dinners.
I have that in my freezer, so
Crumbs in his
don't
belly
remind
button.
me.
I did read into that as I think Ollie's probably, is it a subtle shot at the front office? I think he's also saying, look, the reason the bullpen is not as great as you want it to be is because they got to cover 7 innings a night.
Yeah.
And that's a starter problem. So if my bullpen was rested and I could use them appropriately and I wasn't having to do essentially back-to-back bullpen games, if I had just anybody, if it was J.A. Haps, Michael Pineda, whoever.
Mad bum.
If I had a 32-year-old starter to give me a nice 6 innings with a 4.2 ERA, I could manage my bullpen efficiently. I wouldn't have to throw 7 dudes on a Tuesday, and then on Wednesday night, you bitch and complain at me why I can't use half of them. Well, it's because the day before you did not have a major league starter to pitch against the Dodgers in a major league game. You had nobody you could trust to actually go out there and be a major league starter.
Great point, Charlie.
I wonder if
Could have played that drop.
if they were thinking, let's stick with Waino. He can go 140.
It's his last outing before the All-Star break.
I know, dude.
I bet you he had 130 in him.
I'm sure he did,
He'd have 10 days off, basically.
Yeah.
because it doesn't seem to tax him at all.
My 6-year-old was so excited when Kisner got his second hit last night. I told him it's because he's on this stupid show Dad listens to. He was so confused, Jobu. Yeah, good for Kiz, man. Like he's starting to figure it out.
Can I say, though, and I like Ollie, but I think when he calls out, whoever he was calling out there, whether it's Verhagen or Kisner, he clearly had an issue with pitch selection. Well, you're the manager. All right? You're the manager. I understand if you trust your catcher and your pitcher to call their own pitches, all right. But if they throw 3 or 4 straight fastballs in a row and you don't like it, well, then why don't you change it after the first one? Why don't you go have a mound visit? Why don't you send out Mike Maddox to administer the claw and say, hey, I don't like your pitch selection. At the end of the day, in terms of what happens on the field, that's Ollie's job. So, look, if you don't love the pitch selection, Ollie, change it. That's your job also, and it's your pitching coach's job. It's not just Andrew Kisner's job. It's not just Drew Verhagen's job.
Did anybody else catch when Charlie said 7 pitchers?
On a Tuesday.
Is that what I said? Did I say it like that?
What day is it?
On a Tuesday.
Oh,
I always forget what day it is.
I know. It's Thursday today, I believe.
And I don't think Ollie was like calling out the Cheeto eaters sitting on their couch.
I hope
think
not.
his point was,
Can we play it again?
Yeah,
I love this, by the way.
I want to hear it. Yeah.
I love that he said this.
so do I.
Yes.
Listen, they've been good. I mean, you can't. It's easy to sit there and get on them today. The reality is a lot of people watching right now aren't as good as those guys at their jobs. They just don't have people writing about it daily.
Well, hey, we do weekly on Fridays with Dan Caesar.
I love that.
I mean, like, right? If you're not in the public eye and you don't, like, if I had a bad pregame, if that ever happened, right? And then I walk off the field and there's 20 media guys wanting to ask me questions why I was horrible again, you know, like.
Yeah, but
it
you
puts
could go
things
through
in
that.
Yeah, there's a difference if
You
you're
could go
because
through
you're in
Yeah.
social media. If you mess up, they'll be all over you.
Jimmy.
But generally speaking, with people's jobs, everyone has a bad day, right? But they don't have a million people asking them questions with cameras and microphones right after it. I think that was that was his point. And the bullpen, that is fair to say, the bullpen has been pretty good for them. There's been some shortcomings, but overall,
Yeah, but
I got out of a hat.
yeah. But yeah, the most people are asphalt ceiling at 110-degree weather too. I don't know. It's all good.
That's where I'm not going to rip the dude. I think it's
mean-
hilarious. I love when people say interesting things, but I do think that can be taken the wrong way a little bit. But I'm glad he said it, and it's good for the radio.
I would rather see Pujols on the mound than Gallegos right now. That's from the 912. Where's that at? Dang, D-Dog. 912. Missouri failed. Mo failed this offseason. Cheap GM that overspends on low-hanging fruit. Fire Mo. Oh, boy. Yeah. Carlos Danger, that's a yes for me, partner. You catch my drift. Kiz went 2 for 2. That's a good. That's a positive story. The
I
Kiz
think
dog.
you jinxed it, to be honest
Why?
with you. Because you sent everybody a text last night that said the Kiz dog is on fire, and
And
at
he
that
was.
point the Cardinals had a 6-0 lead. Well, but
Yeah, but I don't care.
then they lost the game.
They could fine. I'd rather Kiz do better.
okay,
I
there's
just
no
wa-
jinx.
There's no jinx. I didn't do anything wrong.
Shane, are
Wow.
you
You
kidding
didn't say
me?
the
I
Cards
spelled
are
it
going to win
Perfect
this.
opportunity,
I
rare
spelled it-
opportunity for people to jump on Cam, and immediately Cat goes running right.
No, I'll
back
jump
You
on
gotta
him.
pick
the
and
dog
choose.
shit.
You gotta pick and choose.
I'll jump on him.
I got a lot of content for you. Pick and choose better. Go ahead.
By the way, if I ever text Cam, it always takes him 2 or 3 hours to respond sometimes. I'm wondering what you're doing.
Because it's nappy time.
Or getting your mind right, potentially.
You always get
Well,
right back
yeah.
to me. Thank you for that. You
yeah,
always get
well,
right
he
back
ta-
to me.
I
Thank
do
you.
get back
Immediately
to you.
answers my phone calls.
I do.
If we call Jim, it usually takes a couple hours.
What did I send you most recently? A funny Hunter Biden meme.
He did. He did. I missed the first one because I was napping. You sent the one guy with the thing,
They
That
basically
meme?
said Hunter Biden, whatever it said, it was like Hunter Biden every time he's with a woman, and it was a guy who had like 47 cameras attached to his head. I thought it was funny.
Like, man, I know.
But here's the deal. I will
He's
say
a party animal. I kind of want to party with him. What do you got?
I will say, and this is more of a gambling take, but you never throw out the tweet, you never throw out the text until the game's over.
Yeah, but like Kiz already did his thing. I'm thinking about Kiz more than the overall.
I tweeted it. I said Kiz 6 for his last 10, and
Yeah,
I
he's
put
doing
at
good.
Hot Take Central.
Yes.
That's before his, I think, second hit.
It's
think
about
he's like-
us too. You know,
He's like 7
You
for
addressed an
11
individual player. You didn't say the Cardinals are going to win. Or
yeah,
anything,
I said
but
Kiz is doing his dang, baby. He's got
First
a
of
smile
all,
on his face.
a group text has nothing to do with the jinx. It's supposed to be something public, which I still don't think is a jinx.
No, it's not.
How about this? And this is where, again, I agree with Ollie, even though I love the comment about the people at home in their cubicles. That's fantastic. But we're talking in Major League Baseball. All right, let's go National League. National League bullpen ERA this year. The Cardinals are 4th. It goes Atlanta, Dodgers, Mets. This is ERA. Mets 3.57, Cardinals 3.59. So the Cardinals are essentially right there in either 3rd or 4th place. Milwaukee's 3.6. So right around 3, 4, 5 in bullpen ERA. That means you have a good bullpen. And oh, by the way, that's with you having essentially, is it fair to say, 3.5 to 4 starters. You're rolling out projects. Even at the beginning, every time somebody came out of the pen, when Jordan Hicks went 2 or 3 innings early, that counted as a bullpen ERA. When you're using guys like Packy in essentially opening situations, all those guys that come in after that, those are relievers. So the Cardinals bullpen is actually good, and I think it would be much better if they had consistent starting pitching able to go 6 innings, and they wouldn't have to use guys in crazy situations.
That's why a good starting rotation is so important, because if you don't have that, then you're probably not going to have a bullpen that's able to be there for the long haul. And the thing about the bullpen guys is their image can change like real quick. Like, look at Packy. Like, I think Cardinal fans like, I want Packy
He's a
in there.
star now.
When they first signed, no one, you get a look at him, you know, they put him out there in situations where the game's a little bit out of hand or whatever, and you're like, who is this guy? And now we see what he can do. Same thing with people knew Zach Thompson had a resume, but until he had done it, then now they see him, and he became a trusted bridge guy. Oviedo couldn't buy a win as a starter. They put him in the bullpen. He's looked much, much better.
That's my whole point. And that's kind of the point with TJ McFarland. I hope he's good. When they said, look, in the minors, his pitches and his spin rate and his movement, it's all the same good stuff we saw last year. When TJ McFarland, as Kat said, he really helped this team last year. They did pick up a reclamation project. He was a double play machine. He helped the Cardinals get to the playoffs. I hope he does that again this year. Throw him out there. That's the same way where you said Packy Naughton. I have to Google this
Randy?
guy. Well, guess what? Packy Naughton has gotten you out of monster jams in the last couple weeks. Zach Thompson, we all knew about the first-round pick. He had really struggled as a starter. Okay, what's going to happen? He was helping you win ball games. Same as Yohan Oviedo. Last year, he wasn't ready to be a major league starter. He's helped you win some games. So those guys that we go, Oviedo, Thompson, McFarland, Packy, some of those guys can prove us all wrong. And they're all of a sudden helping you win ball games.
And sometimes a change in shift is really what suits a player. Like, for example, Packy Naughton said, you know, if you're an opener or a starter, because he started some, you know, games as well, it's you're kind of worried about the going multiple innings. He said out of the bullpen, it's attack, 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 and that suits him. Some guys are just better in that role, even though long-term they want to be a starter. Jordan Hicks wanted to start after being very good in the bullpen. And then he looked at the video of him as a starter, and he's like, I was kind of like reserving too much. Like, I wasn't, he said in his own video, he said, I looked at it and I realized that's not who I am. Now he's out of the bullpen. He's not thinking about multiple innings. He's just thinking of letting it go, and he's much better.
Tell Hollywood Hayes to have a Marmol change his diaper before the next game. Somebody has poopy pants. And I hate saying that word, poopy. But he typed it in 15 times.
Wait, I have poopy pants or Marmol does? It's not clear.
Speaking of that,
If you're
by the
going to
way-
say poopy pants, at least know who it's directed at.
By the way, when I walked in, I went to mail a couple letters up there at this beautiful plaza, right by Master Kim's Taekwondo studio.
Great dude.
Where I take my daughter.
Yeah.
Then I saw the garbage can. I had a banana peel to throw away. I noticed that somebody had put a full dirty diaper, and maybe they tried to put it in the trash can, but it was sitting right next to the trash can on the ground, and I didn't feel like picking it up. I would have picked it up if it was like a cup.
No, you can't.
I deal with diapers enough.
I know you can't do that, but
Not somebody else's diaper.
did it look like they could have really tried, or was it too much? They just put it on the ground.
It was a full bulbous diaper. It was full
the
of
garbage
waste.
can full?
I don't think so.
So they could have put it in there.
100%.
All right, they just chose not to and let someone else
Go
pick
to the
it up.
cameras. Go to the cameras. Jackie chimes in and goes, also, God bless Kiz. We love him, but he had some awful blocking behind the plate last night.
He also stole a couple of strikes. You know, I'm watching the things that they're keeping an eye on Kiz about. One of them is pitch framing. I think he's doing better on that. Look, all I know is Yachty's coming back. They brought in the veteran Romine.
When's he coming back? October?
No, they said he's going on a rehab in late July, and then he'll be with the Cardinals. They're hoping in the first homestand in August. My point is, Kiz wasn't hitting, and they brought in like a journeyman veteran guy to beef up defense and Romine. He was getting a bunch of starts. I want Kiz to stay.
Yes.
So my point is, he picked a very good time to start hitting.
Damn right.
Let me tell you this, too. There's just something mentally. When you're under that Mendoza line, and every time you walk up to the plate, and you look up at the Jumbotron, and you see your beautiful face, and then you see that batting average, and it starts with a 1.
Oh, yeah.
And it says 177 or 185 or 196. Now that Kiz can look at a 208 batting average, I'm telling you, mentally, you just feel a little better.
Same with Newbar. I mean, Albert's been hitting that bottom of the order. We're like that one day was like, oh, they started 5 guys under 200. Most of those guys got above 200. The bottom. Dickerson, had a few games where he was hitting. I mean, you need something from the bottom. So if you don't have your full complement of starting pitchers in the bottom part of your lineup while guys are still dealing with injuries, starters, and are not there, so you have 2 really bad things to navigate around. Bottom of the order not hitting and starters not going deep. Probably not a great recipe.
Overall, Mo has done a good job with consistent winning record and signings of Goldie and Arenado. Just frustrated on what this team could be with a couple of key proven additions. In the TLR and previous times, these bargain bin finds, etc., would never have happened. The Cards are not near of what they used to be. Very sad. Was it a child's diaper and an adult diaper? Of course, Eric in Central Weston wants to know.
It was a child's diaper.
God.
Now, to be fair, also, John Mozeliak has a boss. Let's throw the DeWitts up there, too. They run the show, right? And it's those purse strings that John Mozeliak is working with. So this offseason, I think it's fair to say, through how many games have the Cardinals played? 91 games. The offseason signings have not been very good whatsoever. Now, if Corey Dickerson, if he finds it, whatever happens with Verhagen, McFarland, who knows? But I think you can look at last year, for example, and you talk about, what was the word that was used? Dumpster dive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever.
That's a little harsh
Bargain
for me.
bin.
Bargain bin.
Low-hanging fruit.
Low-hanging
is what they-
Bargain bin. Blah, blah,
Whatever
blah,
term
blah,
you want to use. Last year, the Cardinals went that route with a bunch of dudes. Wade LeBlanc, Jay Happ, John Lester, Luis Garcia, TJ McFarland. They literally went 5 for 5. They went 5 for 5 on dudes that nobody was excited about. The second that you saw that transaction, Wade LeBlanc, Jay Happ, John Lester, who the hell is TJ McFarland? They went 5 for 5. Every single one of those dudes hit. But then this past winter, they've essentially went 0 for 5.
And the truth is, like the way I looked at Dickerson, I thought their lineup would be good enough where that was just a little piece. He wasn't the guy I wanted them to get, but I thought they'd be fine with him, a veteran bat from the left side. And then the truth is, you don't want to overspend or give up too much for little bullpen pieces, because, I mean, they did it with Cecil. They gave him a ton of money. He
Milk
wasn't,
bag.
the guys like that usually are not good value, spending a lot of money. I mean, that's the truth, because bullpen guys come and go, so you try not to spend a lot. To me, the big signing was Matt's, okay, because they needed a guy in the rotation to give you innings and get you ground balls, and he's been hurt. So as Seth points out, you can say, based on the fact that he's had injury in the past, that's a bad signing. It'll be determined what he is going forward now, because if he can be healthy and be the guy that they envision, then it's a good signing. Right now, I think the grade's incomplete.
And that's a very fair point, because all these guys we're complaining about, you can also very easily get away from these contracts. They're 1-year deals. Verhagen's 2. They're all for what? Couple, 2, 3, $5 million. You can. Now, I'm not saying, hey, they were good signings. They weren't. But you can get away from those signings.
Yeah.
It's tougher. Our guy Joe Kelly. There's a lot of Joe Kellys also who are making big money out of the bullpen that have ERAs of 8.
Yeah.
And I was a guy say spend the money and get Joe Kelly, but a lot of times those investments don't work out, And if you have a guy like they figured between Cabby, between Gio and Helsley, who they believed would be healthy once he got the knee fixed up, that they had the back end guys in place. So the rest of the pieces were just guys to help you get there. So you're not going to spend a ton of money.
Eric chimes in and goes, it's not like Kyle Schwarber wasn't available in the offseason. We've talked about that, too. And you brought that up, too, Jimmy.
Yeah, Schwarber doesn't hit for average, but he gives you power, and he does take a good at-bat every time. And I like him. He's not a great defensive player, but I would have liked to. But the money he's making, what is it for 2 years? Isn't it like 30?
No, it's basically 20 a year for 4 years.
Do you want to pay $20 million for that?
I think it's fair to say that the Schwarber deal looks really good right now. I think we got to let that one play out a little bit.
I hear you.
I think that deal could look really good for a couple years and maybe not so great for the last 2.
And I also think, too, if you look at the bottom of the lineup struggling, which it has, without Bader in there and without Tyler O'Neill, because that lengthens the whole thing.
It cracks me up that everyone blames Mo. I'm not defending him and his Vineyard Vines catalog wardrobe, but it's the DeWallets that call the shots as money goes. If you're going to call someone cheap, it's them. That's from the Share Dog with the broken foot.
Sharon.
I just never. I can just tell you, and
does
yes,
have a
I'm a
goofy wardrobe.
I'm a rights holder. When you talk to other people around baseball, which I do, they look at the Cardinals as a very efficient organization, as a model, because they're not reactionary. Oh, this team did that, we have to do this. They have a plan, they stick to it, and they try to get value for where they put their money. And they're always competitive. Now, I understand frustration saying, we're good, well, let's spend some money and get to that next level. I understand that frustration. But to say they're cheap or Mo's a failure, I just don't see it.
Spoiled here.
Should we give a little love to our guy Kiz?
Yeah,
There
let's
you
go.
Oh. Kisner back at it again.
Yes, sir.
Come on, Lars. Come on, Lars.
Come on, Lars.
Racing from first and scoring Lars Nootbaar. Kisner 2 for 2.
Woo.
And the Cardinals have opened up a 5-0 lead.
And Newt's hitting now, too.
Yeah.
Newt had good numbers as a minor leaguer. I think he's a good player. I think he's a major leaguer. I'm not saying he's an everyday guy. Maybe he is. But better than he's shown this year. And now he's hitting. Dickerson didn't hit last night, but has been better. And if O'Neill comes back, now you got a tough choice. Do you want Newt or Dickerson? I have a feeling since Dickerson has a contract in place.
Well, that call, though, what is this, the World Series? Come on now.
Who said that?
What is this? Game 7 of the World Series?
Who said that? Who was that?
I believe that was Seth.
I believe that was Sethy Boy.
Do you want to hear the game-winning hit, though?
Yeah.
All right, Sportsnet LA.
Let's go.
They now lead 7-6. Hanser Alberto, the exclamation on an incredible comeback.
Is that Joe
Not
Davis?
as good.
Joe Davis.
Sounds like Jack Edwards a little bit.
He's the next Joe Buck of baseball.
Is he?
Yep.
He's taking over the lead baseball play-by-play for Fox.
Danny's better.
I was going to say, who?
Danny's better.
Is Danny, he's top?
I think he's
Is
the
there
best.
anybody better than him, in your opinion?
Seth doesn't like it because Seth
Too
wants
happy.
everything to be
too
monotone like him. But,
I like a Joe Buck.
Joe Carter wins the World Series with a
Yay.
home run. The Toronto Blue Jays win the World Series, folks. We'll be right back. That's
that-
what Seth wants.
That's what he wants. One.
I was
Hi, we
watching
won.
the Dodgers game on Sunday, and they were talking. They had an off day on Monday to fly to St. Louis, and both announcers said that St. Louis has sneaky good restaurants.
Italian, baby.
I mean, they do, but, they got good restaurants here. Yes, okay, we all know, but, you go other places, there's probably more of them.
Hold on.
Okay, can I be honest?
Can I have a take on this?
Jeez Louise.
I was thinking about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Our guy, Cole Banker, he threw out a question. He said, what are the 4 things of St. Louis, what we're known for? You got to keep 3, whatever it was. It was Emos, it was Toasted Ravs, it was Park Steaks, and it was Ted Drew's. And here's where I think the perception of us is wrong. I think the foods we focus on that are St. Louis foods, like Toasted Ravs, okay. It's a nice little appetizer.
Cool, yeah.
So I think people focus too much on Emos and Ted Drew's and Park Steaks.
Park Steaks.
And I wouldn't say that's what makes the St. Louis landscape of cuisine fantastic. It's more the hill.
Yeah,
it's just like really good restaurants, but it's not like, oh, Toasted Ravs. No, it's like, hey, we have some of the best Italian restaurants in the world.
Well, in the
We
world,
do.
I'd say, yeah, they're good. But you go to Jersey, you go out east, you got those everywhere. Everything's good out there. There's so much competition.
We have great steakhouses here.
Good
We have
steakhouses.
great Italian restaurants.
Yeah, again.
But people
There's
focus on Emos and they focus on Toasted Ravs.
But those are traditional things. They're the easy things to point to.
But people will say, oh, no, St. Louis, trash food. I don't like Emos. I don't like Toasted Ravs.
I get you.
And I
Brendan
would say,
Phillips
hey,
is the one that said that. No one else says trash food.
No, it's not trash. But there's
Who says
a
trash
lot of
food?
other places have more abundantly more good restaurants. Does that make sense?
what I'm saying is I would not hang my hat on Emos and Toasted Ravs. I would point more towards the fact that we have fantastic steakhouses and some of the best
barbecue.
Italian,
You got a bunch of
great
stuff.
barbecue.
Yeah, man.
Ted Drew's is great, by the way. It really is. I think it's great.
Thanks, Charlie. Help me with
Maybe
that.
it's the best.
Whatever.
Cat, it's the best.
Whatever,
hey,
Cat.
Let me tell you something, Cat.
In
if you lined
Chicago,
up
what
10
do they have?
ice
Graters? Graters or
it's
something?
the greatest
same
thing ever.
It's the best
Cat,
of the best.
if you lined up 10 ice creams and custards and I tasted all of them, I mean, no doubt, Ted
The
Drew's
best.
would be so much better.
It's the best.
I would be able to tell immediately how great it is.
Hey, look at this. Cam, did you see the Cardinals writer
Are you an
crying,
investor?
crying about the vaccine issues with the Royals? They got 10 dudes missing.
So you're telling me that if Cam took you to a great steakhouse in New Jersey, you would say it's not as good as the one in St. Louis? It's the exact same argument you're making
Disagree.
about the ice cream.
Disagree.
I happen to like Ted Drew's.
By the way, a lot of the meat is grown right around here. Missouri and
They
Kansas.
don't grow meat; it's raised.
What did I say? You grow.
You would eat grown meat.
You grow
wouldn't
the
you?
grass.
You and Andy eat the
You
same
grow
kind of
the
meat.
grass-fed beef. Charlie wins.
Wow.
My point is,
Another W.
some of the best beef in the country.
That is true.
Missouri,
Chicago.
Kansas,
Yeah. I hear you.
I'm not arguing that.
right here in the
There's
heartland.
There's some
you have
great
East Coast
steakhouses.
values.
No.
There's great steakhouses.
You have East Coast
He
values.
does, and he should. And I've traveled the world. I've traveled around the United States. I've been to a ton of different cities, and there's a lot of good food in other cities. I'm just saying.
Here, too.
I know, but
Here too.
there's just
But
a
I,
lot.
but I do question, if you're a Dodger fan and you're like, okay, they got an off day. Hey, you want to hear about the restaurants to the city we're traveling
Yeah,
to?
I
Would
mean-
you care?
But here's the deal. It's a compliment, but it's not. Saying, oh, they have sneaky good. That means you expect crap. That's what you're saying. You're saying, oh, little old St. Louis, little old flyover
for nothing.
country. Oh, hey, they actually have good food.
Flyover.
That is
country,
not
yeah.
really a compliment. It's, if anything, it's a backhanded compliment.
Just, though, every city, like in Philly, known for cheesesteaks. I say that because we were just there with the Cardinals, right? Everyone's Geno's and Pat's, right? You've heard of those, have you? But the
God.
truth is, those are the tourist traps. Those are not the best.
You're right.
So everyone's always like, we have other things but cheesesteaks. It's not Geno's and Pat's. And then their stupid morning talk show had the two O's arguing whether or not Geno's and Pat's were good
Hey,
like Ted
Gino.
Drew's.
Hey, oh, Gino, New York,
Oh, Pat.
Jersey, up in Maine has unbelievable seafood. Philly's got all kinds of Italian, and they got you can go to a little convenience store in New York City, in Manhattan. A little convenience store. It looks like a dump.
A bodega.
What is that? What they're called?
Well, it depends.
You walk in there.
I was putting it on a tee for him.
They got just 2 things of chips. You can only get soda, and they have a deli, and that's the best damn sandwich. And there's another one there, and there's another one there, and they're all unbelievable. That's the difference, man. You could close your eyes and point, and that restaurant's going to be pretty close to whatever the best one in St. Louis is.
I don't know if that's, but I understand
I'm
what
reaching,
you're saying.
but I'm
you're
saying.
saying that there's wider spread availability of a good sandwich or whatever.
East Coast values, guys.
I don't give a damn. I lived out there. I love it.
You're also talking about metropolitan areas that I know COVID's changed the game, but a lot of people live in the cities, downtown, walk around to the delis, walk around to the restaurants. St. Louis is not a city where a lot of people live downtown. We have a bunch of really good restaurants stretched out over an hour radius.
Exactly.
And if you talk about a sandwich, I would put Adriana's up there with any sandwich I've ever had.
I get you.
I
Joyous.
love that place.
Joy's. Oh, yeah.
Joy's
I like
good,
Mama's
too.
Deli. Don't get me wrong.
Subway.
Subway tastes
The
like
Subway
Subway.
on Page?
Subway tastes like
How is
Subway.
that so popular?
Because it's easy. It's easy to get in
Marketing.
and out. It takes 2 seconds. It's relatively cheap, although now there's a tip thing on there, and I always tip the guys out, but they give me extra onions and stuff, so I'm like, eh.
Oh, God knows, that little high school kid. Oh, I'll give an extra $1. You're a
I give
hero.
him 20%.
Oh, you're a hero.
I give him 20%.
You're a hero.
I know. I kind of am.
Here's a little tip,
I give
though.
money away.
Here's a little tip, though. Be careful. Like if there's a tip thing at a stadium or whatever, and you think you're tipping the person getting you your order.
You're tipping Putin.
You're tipping the company, the stadium. It doesn't go to those people.
Then they always
Isn't
get a
that
huge
odd?
raise. They get a huge raise.
Isn't that odd?
I didn't know that.
Like, so I think it was Milwaukee. You pay for your medium meal, and it says tip thing, and I always put it in there. And the guy said, just so you know, that tip doesn't go to the people working in there. I go, well, who would it go to? It goes to the company. Well, you're tipping the company, not the people.
Yeah. So what if you give them cash? Oh, yeah, I guess you can't.
So I try to tip
know.
people who are working, who are trying to make a living.
I do.
I wouldn't tip the company.
I'm not cheap. I
Wow.
should be cheaper.
Sounds like you hate kind of big corporations.
No, a tip is for the person serving you.
But what about the corporations providing the jobs?
Yeah,
They're
you
the
don't-
job.
That's not a
they're
tipping
the job
arrangement.
creators.
Yeah, I'm all for that. That's called capitalism.
I don't know.
The tip goes to the person that is giving you the service.
Sounds like you hate big business to me.
Well, sometimes you do. I also agree with Cam. East Coast has the best food. Eric on Central West End. Cam, you're spot on about New York delis. They are the bomb when it comes to good food. Amazing. Shay. Oh.
Can I just say this, though?
Yeah.
West Coast has great food. Okay, the Midwest has great food.
Down
the
south
East has
got good
there's,
food.
There's plenty of good food in this country. Like, L.A. has great restaurants.
Damn right.
St. Louis has great restaurants.
Yep. Boston.
So, Boston has
Oh.
great. Philly, the Italian and food, it's good. So it's not saying that. I'm not saying that St.
Starving.
Louis doesn't have it. I'm
yo.
saying a lot of places have it.
Pasadena. Hey, Pasadena.
What do you?
This Jimmy.
After the break.
What do you got? What do you got in Akron or wherever?
Toledo's got
We talked about
a
those.
fast food. He's got a
What do you got there?
Applebee's.
Perkins.
Chili's.
No, what's their signature
You ever
thing?
heard of
like
Red
Toasted?
Robin?
Like Ted.
Red
You know,
Robin's
we've
not
talked
bad.
about this.
I can't remember.
Hungarian hot dogs. Tony
Yeah.
Pacos.
All right.
It all gets back to Jamie Farr.
And I'll bet it's great.
Man.
Jamie Farr talked about it on MASH. All
And
right.
I'll bet it's great.
It's a hot dog.
It's a hot dog. I ain't going out of my house to eat a hot dog.
That's my
You
whole
know?
point. First of all, Toledo
ain't
does
doing
not have good restaurants. I'll just be the first one to say that. St. Louis does. But, like, people go to Toledo like, hey, what are you known for? Hey, we got these hot dogs. Oh, cool. I'll
Cool, we're
never
gonna
go
move there. We're gonna move there.
But that's my point with St. Louis. People are like, oh, what are you known for? You ever had this Emos? Hey, you ever had these toasted Ravs? Like, that wouldn't be the first thing that I would provide.
No.
If somebody goes, hey, come to St. Louis, they always ask for recommendations. You're going barbecue. You're
Dang
going some
right.
of these great steakhouses. I'm sending them to the hill.
Damn
I'm
right.
not saying, hey, you got to try this thing called a toasted Rav.
Tell the ravioli.
St. Louis is
ball.
St. Louis is pretty well known for barbecue. It's right up there with Kansas City and Memphis. People talk about St. Louis barbecue.
They do.
So there are other things.
Super smokers, Pappies, all that stuff. Jimmy, all right, let's go to break.
Arby's.
Okay. We should go to break, shouldn't we? I'll read one more text. We'll go to break. Eric in Central West End. Jimmy is also correct. Geno's and Pat's are literally the worst cheesesteak I've ever had. Straight trash. For what it's worth, Ralph's in Philly might be my favorite restaurant in the country. Dude, all you got to do before you go places, oh, by the way, where you're going, oh, God, the Lobster House down in southern New Jersey. Oh, Lordy be. That is unbelievable. But all you have to do is look up. Don't go to where the tourists are. Go online, type in best restaurants that it's kind of like, no one knows about, and they'll give you a list of all kinds of stuff. Simple.
The Jersey Shore, the pizza there is pretty great.
Jimmy, I'd put on
Pretty
15 pounds, and I wouldn't give a damn. I'd go to that
And I don't
Lobster
care
House.
what Mr. Ohio.
It's a restaurant. It's got lobsters out the wazoo, and it's a boat outdoors on the water. Oh, God.
I can't trust Cat, though, on pizza because for years he always talks about this Lutina's down in Jupiter. I've had it. It's fine. But the best Jupiter place is that wood-fired place. It's the best. It's some of the best pizza I've ever had in my life. I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but that wood-fired pizza they have a great salad, honestly, that's tossed in this dressing. Truthfully. So Lutina's, it's
You
okay.
like that restaurant because it has a giant hammer and sickle posted outside the entrance.
Ooh. Uh-oh.
Really didn't mean anything. I just felt like...
Good one.
The working man, right? Hammer and sickle?
Well, I am for the working man, and all that Cat wants to do is tip the corporations.
That is true. I tipped
I
their
thought
poor
I
guys
said
at
the
Subway.
exact opposite.
You may
You
have.
Still gave me
I don't even
trouble.
remember what you
All
said.
right, let's go to break.
We're awful.